like to call the November 7th meeting of the Cache Grand Planning and Zoning Commission to order.
Yeah.
Would you please all join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Okay, would you please let the record show that all member commissioners are here? And any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, a couple of things that aren't exactly changes, but there's some housekeeping that I think I'd just cover here for us. First off, I want to point out that tonight is the last meeting that our traffic engineer, Monir, will be with us. Monir's moving on to other endeavors, so just want to thank Monir for his time with us and his contributions, but this will be the last Planning Commission meeting that he'll be here, be with us with. And we will have a new traffic engineer, contract employee, Clark. Clark's over here beside Dwayne. What's Clark's last name again? Klatnoff, right, thank you. Clark Klatnoff. So Clark will be attending our Planning Commission meetings and providing traffic engineering services for future meetings. The other thing I just want to point out on when you get to approval of the minutes next is that we did take minutes on that special public hearing that we held for the general plan on October 17th. We had, under state law, we have to have two public hearings. We had one on October 17th. Not all commissioners were there. We have provided you with the minutes of that meeting, just for your reading, if in case you wanted some information for tonight. We're not going to be approving those. The city attorney tells me we can't approve those until our next meeting, but you can certainly have them before you and read them, and we'll get full presentations by staff and the applicant this evening on those two general plan amendments. So everyone will get the same information. All commissioners will still get the full presentation, so you won't miss out anything from the 17th. So those are not real changes, but a little bit of housekeeping, if you will.
Okay. So, yeah, in just a minute, are we able to approve both minutes? Very good. Gotcha. All right. Okay. All right, and next, welcome Cortez Smith. Welcome to the commission. Glad to have you. Anything you want to say as introduction?
Glad to be here. I've been a resident for now almost 20 years, which is scary. Glad to be here. Hopefully I can certainly contribute and want to make Casa Grande a beautiful place to live.
Very good.
Welcome.
Thank you. Look forward to it. Okay, and next, the minutes we've discussed. Commissioners, minutes are before you for the October 3rd meeting.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
that we approve the minutes of the meeting of October 14th,
No,
The 3rd.
third.
Correct?
the 3rd. Okay, this one, the other one, we're not approving that.
Right.
Right,
Correct.
okay,
I second.
all right.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. The three items, yes, marked F1, 1, 2, and 3 are on our consent agenda. These items will be enacted with one motion and one roll call vote for the commission. There'll be no separate discussion for these items unless a commission member or a member of the public so requests, in which event the item would be pulled from the consent agenda and considered in the normal sequence of the agenda. If there's anybody here that would like to address those first three items on our agenda, please let us know.
My name is Angie McKinley. I live in McCartney Center, and I would like to request that we not approve the rezoning for more homes on F2, to keep
Okay.
it to the 82,
Okay,
okay?
so,
I'm opposed to them being, increasing the housing amounts in that area.
okay, so you'd like us to pull that item and hear that item?
Yep.
Okay? F2. Okay? Any others? Commissioners, any items you'd like to pull? Okay. Okay, so for the remaining two items, commissioners,
Chairman, I'll make a motion
thank you so much.
to approve consent items F1 and F3.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Excuse me. Change of weather. Can we call the roll?
Member Smith,
Approve.
Member Eldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. Okay. All right. So with that, next thing on our agenda then is public comments. If anybody from the public would like. Yeah, but that'll be in new business, first part of new
Oh, I
business,
thought
if that's okay.
I thought that was, I'm trying to take notes.
Okay. All right, so back to where I was, the public comment portion. If there's anybody from the public that would like to address the commission on any item that's not on our agenda, in any item in general, this is a great time. We'd love to hear from you. And we can't respond to your comments, but we can direct staff as appropriate to address the issues you might have. Anybody have any comments they'd like to make to the commission? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. We'll get down to new business. And first part of new business, I'd like to address the F2 that was pulled from our consent agenda. So in this process, for all of the rest of the items, we will have a staff member do their presentation about that item. Then the commission will ask questions of the staff. We will then ask the applicant or their representative to come up, and we'll have, make a presentation if they would like. Staff, commission will ask questions of them, and then at the end of each item, we will open up for public comments and ask you all for any comments you would like to make about that particular item to come forward. If you do come forward, we really like to hear from you. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If somebody has already commented about that issue, we'd rather not have too many repeats of the exact same comments. So with that, we will start with F2, a request by SBL Engineering on behalf of Hillstone Homes for preliminary re-subdivision plat for McCartney Center Parcel FF. And James?
All right. Thank you, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. So this request in front of you this evening is a re-subdivision preliminary plat for McCartney Center Parcel FF. Just to familiarize everyone with where this is located, it's an area within the McCartney Center planned area development, north of Frontier Street and west of Palomino Parkway. It was part of the original preliminary plat for McCartney Center. and it had always been planned for 82 lots. As the various parcels within McCartney Center developed, they respectively final platted throughout the years. Due to just the timing of the downturn in the economy in the 2008 era, Parcel FF never made it to final platting. So it's at the time of final platting when the actual lots are created and we approve for street layout and infrastructure construction. We have a section of the code that states that if a final plat is not approved or submitted rather within 2 years of the preliminary plat, that portion of the preliminary plat expires. So what you're asked to consider today is essentially a renewal of that portion of the preliminary plat that was approved back in 2005 originally to reinstate the plan for 82 single-family lots. Here's an excerpt of how it would be laid out into that area. The pre-plat would be for lots that have a minimum lot width of 70 feet and a minimum depth of 115 feet. So the smallest lot size within there is just slightly over 8,000 square feet. 2 years ago, there was a renewal for a preliminary plat that was in front of you, and it was the same as from originally, and it's the same tonight, but it was with the intent to renew that pre-plat. However, they didn't make it to the finish line with their final plat 2 years later, so we're back again. When looking at preliminary plats, these are the criteria that we have to evaluate to ensure that the preliminary plat is adequate and conforms with specific criteria. The first I want to talk about is access to public roads and also the zoning. This is an excerpt of the McCartney Center PAD, where you can see that back from its original approval, it was planned as a single-family area, and what this approval would do tonight is to allow for that entitlement to go forward for 82 single-family homes. With regard to access, they are proposing 2 access points into that parcel. Both are off of Frontier Street. There isn't any access planned off of Palomino Parkway because of some site challenges. There's a drainage channel that runs along the west side of Palomino Parkway, so it would be problematic to provide a driveway point there. Also, Palomino is an arterial road, and so access points with a local street onto an arterial is discouraged, whereas Frontier is known as a collector street designed to collect traffic from local streets, so it's more appropriate to have the connection points at that location. I do want to note that Frontier Street is theoretically planned to continue west, crossing Peart. It would rely on future development on the other side of Peart for that to happen, and it's unknown as to when that would occur. Palomino Parkway is also planned to continue north by northwest. However, there are no immediate plans north of this area for development, so it's hard to say when development will occur to the north that will facilitate the expansion of Palomino to the northwest. However, back in 2022, when this item was in front of you, there were some concerns from surrounding property owners about the fact that Peart does not extend north of Frontier. As you can tell from the originally approved PAD, Peart was not planned to extend north. This pre-plat does not show it extending north. Access to properties to the north And west of this site would have to come from either the extension of Frontier or the extension of Palomino Parkway. This sort of shows you what I'm talking about. This is an approved plan for Valago to the west, where you can see how Frontier extends. And then the approved zoning to the north shows a theoretical circulation network of how the future roadways would tie in. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve this preliminary plat known by DSA 22000, or DSA 2400180. Should this pre-plat be denied, it would result in the inability to develop this lot as it's currently zoned, single-family residential. They would have to propose an amendment to the zoning to allow a use that can occur on one large parcel, which would likely involve a rental product or something commercial in nature. By approving this pre-plat, it allows the development to go forward as was approved in the early 2000s for 82 single-family lots. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have one.
Yes.
In regards to once the build-out were to take place, are there any plans to actually widen PERT?
No.
Because of the traffic volume?
Commissioner Cortez Smith, sorry, I was reading Cortez as a surname. Welcome to the commission, by the way. That is a good question. There would not be any requirements to improve PIRT. The PIRT improvements that exist were put in to accommodate the overall development of McCartney Center. However, PIRT currently exists as a half street. Its improvements that are there because it's what's immediately abutting McCartney Center to the east. We will see additional Peart Road improvements on the west side of its center line as we see development along the west side of Peart. That will result in basically a doubling of the road that's currently there. It'll go from a 40-foot right-of-way to 80 feet, and there would be improvements on the west side of the street, including a new travel lane, sidewalk, curb gutter, street lights.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Would the applicant or their representative like to address the commission? Okay. Seeing none, I will open the public portion of this meeting. Anyone would like to address this issue, come forward. Give us your name and address as you come up.
So my name's Angie McKinley, 1632 East Walter Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. I was just concerned that they were asking to increase the density in this, and that's why I wanted to be able to hear what was being said, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Oka. I live on Agave Lane, which backs up to Peart. And I have a question. The plan I have seen deals with the eastern side of parcel FF, but you're showing that it's using up the whole side all the way to Peart. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that where the 82 homes are going to be developed there? Or is it just off Palomino and Frontier?
So I can answer that. Let me get
Thank
to
you.
a better slide.
Yes.
This probably shows it the best. So the 82 lots will be contained within or bounded by Palomino to the east, and basically the boundary of the subdivision to the west, which would be Peart if Peart were to be extended. But what's in place of Peart in that area is a drainage channel. It's where you see the tree detail there to the far left. So all those 82 lots are contained within that area.
So where it says parcel FF and where you show the park area, that is part of the 82?
Yes. It's about 33 acres of property that's contained within that area.
Okay, so that whole area, because I must misread then the form you sent us, if I can just, I thought you were only talking about this area.
Oh, yeah, I
Because
can,
that's where the arrow goes to, so, but you're including all of this, is
yeah,
that correct?
correct, yep.
Okay, and that is not where the park is gonna be, where you show it up there, that's not park, that's,
So what I have up on the screen here is from the zoning guide, so it's a little bit more conceptual than what we would see when it actually comes forward to a plat. But there is a open space feature in the center. It is, do we have it's right there.
okay.
And then there's another open space feature there in the corner.
Okay. All right, thank you, that explains.
No problem.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission. Commissioners,
Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
thank you so much.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat from McCartney Center parcel FF.
Very good.
Second?
And a second, you have a motion and a second, could you call the roll? Thank you.
Member Smith?
Aye.
Member Eldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a request for a major site plan for Horizon Homesteads. 275-unit multifamily development on 25 acres located at 1355 East Early Road, DSA 2400097. Jim, you're on.
All right. I think this is the last you'll hear from me for tonight, so,
We'll miss you.
but I'll be back. That's fine. So as you introduced, Mr. Chair, this is a major site plan request for a development known or proposed to be known as Horizon Homesteads. A little bit of background is the location of the site is identified by the solid square on the screen, but it sits within an area that was recently annexed into the city, known as the Roping Ridge annexation, outlined in yellow there, or filled in with yellow. It was a 218-acre annexation that was approved very early into this year. Upon annexation, one of the properties within that annexation area received zoning approval for what's known as the Peartley Point PAD in the burnt orange color. And this site plan is located within that Peartley Point planned area development zone. Within the Peartley Point planned area development, there's a mixture of uses. We're talking about the area tonight that is designated as medium-density residential. Also located within this planned area development zone is an additional multifamily site to the east. And then at the hard corner, there's an area designated for commercial. And filling up about 54 acres of the property is an area designated as light industrial to the south. What's in front of you this evening is the major site plan approval for this medium density area of Peartley Point. Here's an excerpt of its major site plan. It is a for-rent community. It is medium density. It's a 25-acre site. I did indicate in the staff report that it was gated, and that was actually a mistake. It's not intended to be gated, so that I wanted to point that out. But they are proposing a total of 278 units, which comes to just over 11 dwelling units per acre. So that fits within a medium density development where up to 12 DUs per acre is permitted by the zoning. Of those 278 units, half are 3-bedroom and half are 4-bedroom. All but 14 of the structures are going to be duplex type structures. 14 units are going to be standalone. They range from 1,100 square feet to 1,300 square feet in size. They all have fenced backyards. The plan identifies 625 parking spaces where 543 are required. Of the 2-story homes, they are 27 feet in height, and of the single-story homes, they're 17 feet in height. There is up to 32% open space within this development, and then there's some other amenities like a clubhouse and a pool. Here's some elevation details of the product. Of course, these are the duplexes as I'm describing. These are all 2 stories at 27 feet in height. What you see on the top left and top right is the front view versus the rear view. And then on the bottom left and bottom right is the side elevation views of the units. And then this is the single story product, which is not a duplex, upon which there'll be 14 of these examples. And again, same thing, top left and top right are the front and rear view, and then you see the side views on the bottom. And then this is the elevation profile of their planned clubhouse. When reviewing major site plans, there is a series of criteria that have to be evaluated and substantiated in order to recommend approval. And the staff report goes into each of these criteria in greater detail, but I just want to focus on the highlighted items for you this evening. The first is involving the adequacy of the plan with respect to land use. Now, to the north of the site is single-family residential. Directly north of Horizon Homesteads is within Pinal County's jurisdiction. And the properties on the other side of Early, directly on the other side, are more of a residential estate type property. There's some acreage associated with those lots. But Tuscany, which is within the city of Casa Grande, is a little bit denser. Those lots are well over, they probably range between 7,000 and 13,000 square feet in size. But further to the south of this site, properties along Jimmy Kerr, which are also within the county, are zoned and entitled for light industrial and heavy commercial type uses. And further south of Jimmy Kerr, although there's not a lot of development, it has designation for manufacturing and industry. So we do see the fact that there is a need to transition between the lower density single family that you see on the north side of Early to the existing and designated heavy commercial and industrial uses as you go further south. And that's why this PAD was arranged with its uses as it was, providing for light industrial towards the south end and then transitioning to more neighborhood-friendly uses on the north end. To further help mitigate compatibility with the single-family properties on the north side of Early. There is a requirement within the planned area development zone for structures to be a minimum of 50 feet from the Early Road property line, which this development does comply with. They're also providing a 25-foot landscape buffer along Early to further help mitigate impact. And all structures are less than 28 feet in height. Regarding existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions, the northernmost 55 feet of the property is to be dedicated for Early Road public right-of-way half-street. Early Road is designated as a minor arterial in our street network plan. Currently, what is existing of Early is just one lane in each direction there. Ultimately, we would see improvements both north and south of its center line as there's development to the north and south of Early. But what this development would do is dedicate its required 55 feet of public right-of-way, and that will allow some additional Early improvements to be made south of its center line, resulting in 2 eastbound through lanes, a left turn lane into the development, a right turn lane into the development, and a bike lane, sidewalk, and street lamps along the south side of Early. Here's a street view image of Early Road going west. The reason why I'm showing you this is Early where it is adjacent or abutting Tuscany. And as you can see, when Tuscany developed, there were roadway improvements which involved providing 2 through lanes. Of course, in that case, they're going westbound, a bike lane and sidewalk. And so similarly, as there's development on the south side of the road, those improvements will be matched by or similar to this in that there'll be 2 through lanes, a bike lane, a sidewalk. And as I mentioned, as there's development on both sides of the road, additional improvements will be made. There was a traffic report provided with this major site plan, and it was reviewed by our city traffic engineer to determine the impact on the roadway that this development was going to have, and whatever other contributing roadways that were identified to have the traffic to and from this site, whatever roadways would be affected. And it found that the only intersection that was resulting in an unacceptable level of service, and that was as a result of previously approved developments, was the intersection of Peart and Early. However, a traffic signal is already scheduled to be installed by the Carlton Commons development at the northeast corner, so that will mitigate that unacceptable level of service and bring it into an acceptable level of service. But Early Road, with these planned improvements that I talked about, with the provision of 2 through eastbound lanes, is found to have enough capacity to accommodate the proposed traffic generated by this development. The TIA, or traffic impact analysis, does show that the development will generate a little over 2,000 daily trips. There'll be 139 trips at its AM peak hour and 163 trips in its PM peak hour. With regard to parking, our parking code requires that for product involving 2 or more bedroom units, the development is to provide 1.7 spaces per unit and also 1 guest parking space for every 5 units. These are all 3 and 4 bedroom product, and so calculating the 1.75 per unit plus 1 parking space for every 5 units yields the requirement for 543. one of the concerns that I had is that, these are pretty big units. They're 3 and 4 bedrooms. They're not 2 bedrooms, and they're not just simply 3, but there's also a good amount of 4. And so this site is providing an abundance of parking over that minimum required by providing 625 spaces, or about 15% over the requirement. I wanted to point out the planned landscaping and screening. As I mentioned, they are providing for a 25-foot landscape buffer parallel to Early Road, but there's also a 15-foot landscape buffer along the west and the south side of the site. That is to be in compliance with the PAD residential design standards that are in place for any residential development within planned area development zones. There's only 10 feet along the predominant portion of the east side of the development because that is abutting another planned multifamily development where our PAD residential design standards don't actually necessitate a buffer there. However, this specific Peartley Point PAD did require for a 10-foot buffer between those two uses. So they are accommodating for that. With regard to the screening, they are providing a 6-foot tall CMU wall along the north, west, and south property lines, and a portion of the extreme southeast because it abuts a light industrial land use there. But then for the rest of the site, they're providing a 4-foot high view fence. That will be the predominant boundary or fencing along the eastern side, and then internal to the site, providing the fencing along the backyards of those units that are parallel to the wall. Regarding conformance with the general plan, this area is within the Neighborhoods General Plan land use designation. Neighborhoods is designed to primarily accommodate for single-family development. However, it does allow for higher density development on sites that are no greater than 25 acres. They can have a density of up to 12 dwelling units per acre, which this site does comply with. They're at just a little over 11 dwelling units per acre. And again, this image helps show why a medium density product is a good transition between the lower density residential that lies to the north and the fact that to the south, the areas within the Commerce and Business General Plan designation, which can accommodate more intense uses, and then further south, the Manufacturing and Industry General Plan category. With regard to the general plan's goal of a housing mixture that is basically 65 to 70% single family and then 15% multifamily and then 15% manufactured homes. We were prompted to do a housing study late last year, and it was kind of refreshed earlier this year, that showed where are we at with the supply of these various housing types versus where are we at with the city's need in terms of what the general plan tells us should be the appropriate mixture. As a result of that study, we did find that we were way oversupplied. As you'll see, of course, this data is a little bit old, but as of 2023, there were 3,218 units either zoned or within the major site plan stage for build-to-rent and duplex type product. So we had a supply of that, but based on the ratio that the general plan spoke of, we really only needed 840 units. So as you can see, we do have an oversupply. However, these 278 units that are proposed were within the Peartley Point PAD, which was reflected within that 3,218 supply number. So we are now going to just look at this as a decrease of that need from 840 to the 500 and whatever the math works out at when you take 270 out of the 840. For some reason, I'm better at math when I'm tired. I don't know why. Maybe because I overthink, but I guess I'm not tired enough to do that math just yet. Maybe by the end of the presentation. With regard to the public notification, we did send out notification as which is required by city code. I had not received any comments until this afternoon from one of the adjacent property owners who did indicate that she did have some concerns about the product, and so I believe she'll likely speak on her concerns this evening. From a staff's perspective, we feel that this medium density product is a good fit given the surrounding properties. It is not a traditional multifamily development, which could be seen as either more intense, often taller structures are involved with traditional multifamily structures. And it's also not quite that build to rent that we're seeing like at Peart and Cottonwood and Treckle and Cottonwood, because most of these units are duplexes. So it's kind of an in-between type product. By the fact that the majority of the units share a wall in terms of a duplex scenario, it actually helps the development have an appearance of it being less dense. A good example is when I look at the bungalows at Cottonwood and Treckle, those, I believe there's 178 rental units there, and they're all detached. 100% of them are detached. And whereas the Hancock Cottonwood build to rent at the corner of Peart and Cottonwood has a mixture of duplexes and standalone units. And just visibly, as you go by both developments, and maybe this is subjective, but there is an appearance of less density from the 331 unit Hancock Cottonwood development. And I think that feeling of lesser density is as a result of the fact that some of them are combined into duplexes. It kind of frees up some more room. And with that, there are some recommendations and a little bit of an update. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission move to approve this major site plan. The staff report had 3 technical requirements. The first one has been stricken. The traffic report has been fully reviewed by the city traffic engineer, and he was able to approve it. But the other 2 technical requirements stand. We're requiring that the subject site be placed within its own parcel prior to the issuance of permitting for any development. And the other technical requirement is that they do need to process a map of dedication for the Early Road right-of-way. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioners, questions?
I have one.
Thank you.
Jim, could you go back to that slide that showed the wall, the perimeter wall? On the southeast corner, the wall goes only up a certain way, and then you said it was going to be a 4-foot view fence for the remainder of that going north. would it be a requirement for the developer of that high-density complex that's going in adjacent to that, so that they're not, I mean, they only got a 4-foot view fence, that would probably be temporary, correct?
So Commissioner Peters, that is a good question. We'll have to evaluate how that site plan is presented and how the buildings and whatnot are arranged. What I would envision is that they may end up putting a similar type view fence up, kind of paralleling that. But we would have to look at that relationship between this wall and the one proposed in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it just, to me, it looks like they should have continued that 6-foot wall going north. It doesn't look like it's really a scenic area, right, for the view, but.
I
Right.
was going to ask the same question.
Yeah, and,
What
and,
is the
and,
view
and
of?
for clarification, the reason why it stops right there is let me show you another drawing that might be a little bit more clear. The light industrial land use sort of bumps up to the site to the east a little bit. It's not exclusively to the south, so the intent of that wall was to separate the more intense uses. So the reason for the view fence as proposed is it's separating the backyards from the property line, because there's a requirement for there to be an actual buffer between the backyard of the units and the property line. So they're putting a 4-foot view fence to provide that separation. So there is basically an ungated 10-foot buffer that sits between those units and the east property line. What happens when the other multifamily site develops is a really good question. We're going to have to look at how best to coordinate its development so that it's cohesive with this. And it might involve providing a solid wall along the property line, just to add that additional screening.
And that multifamily thing, that's gonna change the traffic pattern over there too, that we're just talking about right now. When they put that thing in, it's gonna change that.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, again, why you wouldn't just have them install the 6-foot fence rather than the view fence? Because there isn't a view of anything, and then once the multifamily comes in, there's an argument with the people that are renting there that they're going to view the multifamily. I don't know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But
Charge a premium for those lots.
to view the farm field? I don't know.
Okay, we'll deal with that at some point in the future, I guess.
Yeah.
I also have a question as well.
Yes.
In regards to the layout there, was there any sort of a study done in regards to noise? You're looking at the close proximity to Jimmy Kerr, and what's just south of there is the railroad tracks. If I can hear the railroad tracks and the trains coming through in Balago, I'm sure that they'll be hearing that as well. Given that it's only a 6-foot wall, is that really a high enough barrier for the sound?
Commissioner Smith, I don't believe a noise study was done. It wasn't a requirement on the city's part, but the applicant might speak to that. Probably that was a factor as far as the site selection, understanding what its surrounding environment was. I can say that sort of in addition, to add to your concern or to maybe address it to some extent, is the planned use to the south of this site, that light industrial, that might add some additional noise impacts because we don't know what specific uses are proposed there. So we would have the need to review what's proposed in that light industrial when it comes forward to ensure that it is doing what it can to help mitigate concerns of what would then be existing development around it. Within the Peartley Point PAD, it does require for the light industrial area to provide either a 20 or 25 feet, I can't remember right at this juncture, 20 or 25 feet of landscape buffer along the areas that are bordering the multifamily. So that will create some separation. And then there's, otherwise, as there's a 45-foot setback for buildings, so it creates a little bit more space. But why that might actually address the concern, and again, it will depend on what ultimately gets developed there, but as there's more mass that is built within those 54 acres, that should help attenuate some of the noise from Jimmy Kerr and the railroad tracks.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
I have one last question. Thank you. This is a question from Winier. The traffic study, did it include a level of service for the intersection of Jimmy Kerr and Early?
Yes,
And it was
Yes.
D or better?
acceptable, right.
Okay, thank you. I know it's at a skew, so it's a difficult left turn.
Sure.
And I know all of this traffic is not going to go to Pert. Some folks may go down to Jimmy
Probably,
Kerr.
when more development comes, it will trigger, but at this time, it is working,
Thank you.
acceptable level of service.
Thank you.
Any
Now,
other?
Would they be putting a light, would they be putting a light on Early and Jimmy Kerr right there? No light?
No, that's why I asked that question, is if it was acceptable with the development, then they're not
They're
required.
not required? Okay, just was making sure.
Commissioner Garza, I may add, we looked into it about the putting a signal. We went for a grant for a traffic signal, but it didn't qualify because the signal warrant did not meet. So it will, you have to wait a couple of years, and then probably we can go for it.
That's a horrible corner.
Thank you.
So, any others? So you did discuss a traffic signal that was to be constructed by one of the other developers? Could you review that just quickly? Not the whole thing, but where was that? And specifically, to my mind, what's the timing of when we expect or require, for lack of a better term, that traffic light to be in place?
So Chairman Benedict, it's the Carlton Commons development, which is at the northeast corner, so the top right.
Okay.
That development is putting in the traffic signal. Monier can actually tell you about the timing. I know they were looking at some of the programming of it recently.
Yes.
So that's Peart and Early. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman Benedict, the installation of that signal contractor broke the ground, so process has already started. But then they hit the snag because the pole are in back order. So they're saying at this time it is out for at least 3 months. So I expect that probably within 3 to 6 months this installation will be completed. Rest of the thing they're working on it, only they don't have the pole, electric pole.
So they've started and they've ordered the
Yes.
material.
It was, no,
And
the
steel
supplier kind
is-
of went back. It was supposed to be delivered around this time. Then supplier says, no, they could not.
That's good.
Okay, and, I'm assuming I don't think we addressed, they do not have cause.
Chairman Benedict, that's a great question. No, they do not. So just sort of as an expounding of that, because of the lack of certificates of assured water supply, this can only be a type of development that doesn't require certificates of assured water supply, so rental product would be acceptable. They do have to undergo a water service agreement with Arizona Water. And Arizona Water would have to ensure that they have enough groundwater to serve the site. That assurance of groundwater to serve the site comes out of a different calculation or pot than the pot that is used to determine certificates of assured water supply. I just kind of wanted to say that more for the general audience, because I know that question comes up a lot.
Absolutely, very good. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? All right, would the applicant or their representative please come forward? Give us your name and address for the record.
You bet. Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Davis with iPlan Consulting here on behalf of Dominium. And for the record, my address is 3317 Higley Road in the town of Gilbert. So we appreciate coming back here. It's been about 6 months since the zoning case went through. And at that time, there were some questions about, how real is this project and do we have any end users? So I'm happy to say yes, we are here with an end user and a site plan that is, fully compliant with that PAD. I do have a presentation, but Jim does such a great job with his presentation. He's much more thorough than I am. So I'm going to avoid that, and I will respond to questions, some of the questions that have been asked, as well as to any other questions that come up during our discussion here. So with that, a question about the fencing along our shared boundary to the east. We have a multifamily builder that's looking at that property, and because there's a requirement for a 10-foot buffer, we didn't want to put a solid wall there. We wanted the other developer to match that, so we'd have a 20 to 30-foot open space area between the two uses. That would be a much more family-friendly use than having a view fence, wall, view fence. It'd be areas that are somewhat unprotected, hard to look into, hard to secure. So the fewer walls between residential projects is a good thing in our mind, and that's why we've left it open. I also represent the property owner that owns the rest of the acreage, and so we have had those discussions, and we'll continue to have them if they do move forward in that property and on how that property line is handled. So, and the reason it is a V-fence, by the way, is because of that buffer. We want to make sure that people have eyes into that area, so it does remain safe, and people that are using it don't feel isolated between two walls. Question regarding the noise. We have not done a noise study. One of the reasons that during the zoning that it made sense to zone this multifamily or for multifamily use is because multifamily properties are built to a higher construction level standard. There isn't the personal investment that you'd have in a single family home that you may lose because of a noise issue like a train going by, etc. So our noise decibel drop is approximately 25, going from outside to inside is a better standard than what you'd have in a single family home. We looked at different types of walls, but the train tracks are elevated in that location about 3 or 4 feet, so you really wouldn't be able to put a wall up high enough to block that noise in that immediate area. It'd be 15 to 20 feet tall. So what Jim had talked about is let's make sure that we wrap the site with the industrial on the south side, have a buffer along there for trees, but ultimately it's going to be the buildings that get built in that area. And the fact that it's a multifamily for rent gives people the flexibility. If they're more sensitive to noise, they can either move to the other side of the project or find another facility. When it's a for sale product and someone puts $300,000-$400,000 into a property, it's really hard to move once they found out the noise is an issue. It's not that case with a rental product. And then just touching on the timing, I just talked to Dominium's representative here, and we're looking at opening in 2027. So we don't anticipate being an issue with that signal. Otherwise, we've really designed this product to be compatible and be that transitionary type of product between the intensity to the south and the single family to the north. It specifically kind of looks like a house, kind of lives like a house. It's meant to kind of ease that transition and be compatible with those existing neighborhoods to the north. But it is a for-rent product. It's a stepping stone for people that want to have a house-like experience, but maybe don't qualify, maybe aren't ready to buy a house. This is a great alternative for them, and we think it's a good fit for this location. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you have.
Very good. Anything? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. So at this point, I will open up the public meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward.
Hi, Commission and staff. Tina Cramp. I've been here 3 times, so I'm back. Our residence is 15188 West Early Road. We are one of those estate properties across the street from this project. When we were here before, we did have some conversations with regards to the type of product when it was being zoned and incorporated into the city limits. We are still in the county across the street. And so one of the conversations that we were able to have, are we okay?
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Okay, I'm gonna start my timer, thank you. I'll take every minute I can get.
Okay, you're good.
Are we okay? Going up, I'm good with that.
Can you do it in 10 seconds?
Just wanted to count it up. That's all right.
You want me to set a timer on my watch? Okay. Anyways, so when we were here before, we had a lot of different conversations about what type of product is going to be over here, what falls into medium density. We felt that there was a compromise because obviously right off the bat we're like, no, just no. But with having a lot of conversations, I do understand what happens. I understand transition. I am in the real estate industry. I do understand how all that works. However, when we were here earlier in the first beginning of the conversations, we had the medium density conversation lended to single story. We knew that it was going to be a build to rent community, which is okay. In the meantime, when we got this, I got the email from the city, and it showed the 2-story, 3 and 4 bedroom units, and they're in a cluster. So they're not like what you think is a duplex, because we do have a few duplex units around. These are in a cluster, and they're 2-story, 3 and 4 bedroom homes that are next to each other with the green space, and then another set of two stories. So they're in little clusters. 278 units of that is a lot. That's a lot. And I know it meets the requirement right up to the actual one number. One of the concerns that I have is like we mentioned, staff mentioned about oversaturation. I took a little liberty in the last few days and made some phone calls, and I know they've done research, which I'd love to see those reports too, by the way. It's interesting to me how we are growing. But I called a couple of places, and I just kind of asked them a couple of questions in doing some research about what is their current occupancy, where are they at right now in their occupancy numbers, and have they had to make some adjustments to their pricing of what they originally submitted to the city as what they were going to have their units go for. So the first one that I called was the bungalows. I did give them a call because it's one of our newest one that is up on, it's actually renting and putting out here. They are at 6.32% occupancy right now. 6% of their whole place is being rented at this point. They've reduced their prices twice in order to get some consideration from renters. And those are all single story. No, they do have a mix of 2-story and single story. So I thought, okay, those are brand new and are trying to get off the ground. So I made a call to the Courtyard Apartments, which all of us know Courtyard Apartments have been here a long time, and they have 3 bedroom units also. They are at 80% occupancy. They have been going back and forth between 75 and 80% occupancy, and they have reduced their rental prices down twice also in order for them to accomplish, especially they're doing incentives to buy, to get in, things of that nature. So I could have kept on with the phone calls, but I'm seeing that this is kind of what's been happening, and not only happening on the resale side of the market, but it's happening in our rental market in town. So I'm a little concerned about this. Yes, 2027 is great. I just don't know if right now's the time to move forward with something of this nature, this large, but also with all the other things. And I will tell you, the train, yes, you can hear the train, you can feel the train. You hear every block when the horn honks, and also it's a double track. So we do feel the train when both of them are going. So you do have that, so thanks for bringing that up. But we have tried to talk about a compromise. I'm not trying to say don't do it, but I am saying that's a lot, and we might need to put a pin in it and hold it off for a later time. I know. Thanks. I covered my time.
Anyone else like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to commissioners. Thoughts?
I just want to say,
Yep.
as I mentioned in prior meetings, having this housing options for people who may not want garden-style apartments, may not want to live in a single-family home, that's a good thing for our community to have those options available to people. Anybody who is coming to this area and deciding to live in one of these apartments, or as I've learned to call them down in Tucson, casitas, these are, anybody that's coming to that area, whether it's noise or anything like that, they know what they're coming to. That train has been there for years, hundreds of years, or 100 years, so more than that. And so anybody that's coming to that area, they know what they're getting, they know what sounds in the area, they know what that's going to be. And so, as was mentioned, if they don't like it, they can leave that rental, because it is a rental. But again, they are coming to that nuisance that may be there already. So I don't think that's really much of an issue. And then as far as, we, except for Cortez here, we all saw this rezoning come through. We knew what that medium density was going to be. We saw those development standards. They're meeting those heights. They're meeting that density. They're providing quite a bit of landscaping, as you can see on that rendered site plan. And so it's going to be a nice, and the elevations as well. These are nice looking elevations. I've seen a lot of multifamily products and a lot of elevations that look pretty typical, run of the mill, not the greatest. It gets you by in a meeting and nobody's going to question it. It might be just your typical earth and tones and everything like that. But this is a little bit different, and having that architectural difference in our community is also another good thing. And so that's where this project is a good project to bring in. And with that, I would like to make a motion to approve major site plan for Horizon Homesteads, a 278-unit multifamily development, DSA 24-00097.
Okay, very good. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. And more discussion, please. None?
None.
Okay, very good. Okay, would you call the roll?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I assume the motion is to approve with the two technical conditions?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
with the two
Stated?
technical
All right, thank you.
Okay, the second, good with that?
Second.
Okay, he's still good with it. All right. Okay, we all good?
Nay.
Aye.
Member Vanderhagen?
Yes.
Excuse me. Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza? Just before I vote real quick, I like the product. I think it's something of a different variety of what we have out there with the build to rent versus, 2-3-story multifamily. I'm struggling with that supply need situation. However, I do realize that we have already zoned this. So there is, an obligation for follow through now that it's already rezoned. But in the future, I think we're done with this type of product for the future and anything that wants to come in from the zoning perspective, just because we already have what we need at this point here in Casa Grande, as the mayor says. So I'm voting aye for this one.
And Chairman Benedict?
Yeah, we are all struggling with the amount of rental places that have come on in a very short time, particularly compared to what has come in the past years. Makes it challenging for all of us to see it. I love Tina's points about where the market's at, and we have certainly seen rental rates coming down. it's gonna be a challenge for you all and others, because we've opened a whole lot of doors and in just very recent time. The challenge for me is certainly those things on one hand, and the other is this is their property. They are following our rules, and that because of that, my vote's not going to make the decision. But I do vote yes. We do need to support those folks if they're following our rules. I think that's where we need to go. Vote yes. So, my count, it passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next, a public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation to the city council. A request by Victor DeVulo for a zone change from I-1 to I-2, DSA 2400147. Sam, are you up?
I am up. Good evening. Welcome aboard, Commissioner Smith.
Okay.
Good luck to you, and I'm glad you're here. All right, so DSA 2400147. This is a zone change for Medical Waste Services LLC. We're here to hold a public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for a request by Victor DeVello for a zone change request from an I-1 to I-2 for approximately 1.66 acres at 3017 North Rockwell. This location is in the Casa Grande Airport Industrial Park. As you can see here, it's a existing property, an existing business. They've been, I believe, operating 9 years. They've been renting the property. They have recently purchased it, and they're looking to expand. The applicant is requesting to be rezoned from I-1 to I-2 to accommodate this future growth. This future growth could include an industrial autoclave and/or incinerator for the disposal of medical waste. This expansion would require a new building to be constructed on the property. And any new building at this site will require a major site plan or an amendment to the current approved major site plan. And with that, we'll have to come back before Planning and Zoning Commission for approval or review at that time. So there will be another opportunity to address that as we go forward if it is approved tonight. And any use that is likely to emit or create noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other particulate matter, noxious materials, odors, glare, or heat is permitted only in the I-2 zone and then within a conditional use permit in addition. The Airport Industrial Park, where this site is located, was designated as an appropriate site for industrial uses due to its proximity to the airport. And airports are generally non-compatible with residential type uses. So consolidating our industrial uses together allows for less impact on our less intense uses, particularly our residential uses. On the approval of this zone change request, the applicant would submit the appropriate permits for the construction of the building. These permits could include, but are not limited to, an amendment to the approved major site plan, conditional use permits, and the required building permits. The current zoning is zoned I-1. This is Garden Light Industrial. Currently, that is how their business is run. I believe that they handle medical waste, and it is brought into them, consolidated, and moved on. So they fall under the current zoning of I-1, but they are wanting to go to I-2. This is a more intense use zone category. General industrial zone is provided for the development of industries because of the nature of their operation, appearance, or traffic generation or emissions would not be compatible with land uses in other zoning districts, but which nevertheless are necessary and desirable activities in our city. Our surrounding businesses, to the west we have ACO Incorporated, south is the Capital R Construction, to the north is ServPro, and then Dykstra Machinery is across the street to the west, or to the east as it were. zone change review criteria for reviewing a zone change, the following 3 cases. Number 1, the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and applicable elements. The manufacturing industry land use category is designed to promote suitable areas for the variety of industrial and manufacturing uses, creating an economic engine for Casa Grande. The processing of medical waste is an appropriate land use for the manufacturing industry, or for manufacturing and industry. This is the 2030 general plan designation. As you can see, this property as well as the surrounding properties are designated as manufacturing and industry. And within that, I-2 is an appropriate use. In addition to being an appropriate use, this proposal also meets the following general plan 2030 goal. Promote the use of the city-owned airport industrial park, and this is right there in the heart of the industrial park. Rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses. Densities or intensity of the general plan. The applicant is planning for future expansion and intensification of their existing operations. This proposed future use is allowed on a conditional use basis, and again, only in the I-2 zone, which is noted above as an appropriate zoning category within this manufacturing and industry land use. And third, the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of this city. In September of 2024, approximately 15 acres of I-2 zoned land within the airport industrial property was rezoned to I-1. So rezoning this parcel from I-1 to I-2 will help offset that change in zone properties, I-2 zone properties. And then as far as conformance with House Bill 2547, to review and establish concerns for the effect on housing prices. This is a industrial area. We're rezoning from I-1 to I-2, and this should have no impact on housing costs, as residential developments are not allowed within either of these zone districts. Public notification has been done as required, and as of this time, there have been no inquiries or comments about this proposal. So at this time, staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward to the City Council a recommendation to approve DSA 24-00147, a zone change from I-1 to I-2 for the property located at 3017 North Rockwell Avenue. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions for staff?
I have one.
Yes.
Is the owner of this property, have they mentioned, I know it mentions here City Code 17.36.010, and it mentions all of these unpleasant things that are only allowed in I-2. Now, and it's any use that is likely to emit or create noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other particulate matter, toxic or noxious materials, odors, glare, or heat is permitted only in I-2 with a conditional permit. Now, that's, the conditional permit would be separate from what they're planning here then, correct?
Correct. First, they would need the zone change to get into the I-2 zoning, and then when that, if that is approved, when they go to make the amendment to their general, or to their major site plan, part of that is going to be the requirement for a conditional use permit, where staff and then the commission will have a chance to look at what that operation is in detail and make sure that if we approve that we are mitigating any of these unpleasant byproducts of industrial usage.
All right, thanks for clearing that up. I appreciate that.
Good question.
Yes, please.
No, I just said good question.
Okay, any other questions for staff? I have one. and it may be right here on this page, but what is to the south of Centennial Road?
So to the south of in Centennial Road is, I think right now it is zoned urban ranch, which is a more kind of a holding zoning for us, as well as I believe that it is open agriculture land, I believe.
Is that in the city, or is that county?
Yes, it is. I believe this is in the city.
So that should be state land board property?
I'm sorry, say it again?
State land board property, zoned urban ranch. I think it's in the commerce and business land use category. It's my recollection.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any other questions, staff? Okay, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and speak to the commission?
Hello, my name is Victor DeBello. I live at 10071 North Burris Road in Casa Grande. And I don't have any questions, but if you do.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for him?
What are you guys currently doing with the waste now? Are you shipping it out to other locations to be processed, or?
We have a facility in Eloy and one in Welton, so we'd like to move the facility in Eloy to
Okay.
our main office here
Gotcha.
in Casa Grande.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay. Any other questions for him? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now I'll open the public portion of the meeting for this subject. Anybody like to address this, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Make a motion that the commission forward to city council a recommendation to approve DSA-24-00147. Yep, there's no,
I'll second that.
Are there no conditions?
no conditions.
Very good. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Interestingly enough, I have a little concern about their next steps, and what's going to be going on in their next steps, and what happens to the folks that may come into south of there. So I'll vote no. Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, next is, where are we at? H3, a conditional use permit and resolution for automobile washing establishment, 355 West Florence Boulevard, DSA 24-00177, Assistant Planner Daniela Warren.
So, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, I've just been informed by the Assistant City Attorney that we can't hear this item because we did not advertise it as a public hearing on our agenda. You can see it doesn't say hold a public hearing, it just says conditional use permit. So that's a staff error that we did not include the language and advertise it that we're holding a public hearing. So I've been advised we cannot hear this item, even though, we've done all the public notification, but because the notice itself did not say hold a public hearing, that's a deficiency that will not allow us to hear this. So we will pull this item from the agenda and put it back on your December meeting once we re-advertise.
All right?
All right.
Okay. Well, that's one way to check them off. Okay, now we're going to hold a public hearing. Consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for a request from Colliers Engineering and Design, Major General Plan Amendment to amend this, where is it? Maricopa Cash Grand Highway and Indian Valley Road, DSA 2400107. Jacqueline.
All right, good evening, Commission. So this is the second public hearing for our two major general plan amendments tonight. As noted, the first one is to amend neighborhoods to manufacturing industry on approximately 2,250 acres of land generally located near the southeast corner of Casa Grande Maricopa Highway and Indian Valley Road. This requested amendment will facilitate in accommodating employment uses along existing and proposed industrial uses and near key transportation corridors, including Gila Bend Highway, I-8, I-10, the Casa Grande Maricopa Highway, the future I-11 corridor, as well as the UPPR. This site was previously annexed into the city and zoned for a mixed-use residential development, PAD, in 2006. So if you can think back to 2006, this was the housing boom, and everything kind of on this west side of town was annexed to address the market at that time. However, in hindsight, this is not a really good location for housing with it adjacent to the railroad. And there's also floodplain issues in this area as well. So that's why we're seeing a lot of requests for amendments to manufacturing industry to accommodate for that market. And I just want to note that when the general plan was redone a few years ago, this area was in neighborhoods just to kind of, because of the PADs in that area, just so to continue those. So just a little background info there. Oh, and here is the proposed to manufacturing industry. Here are the 7 general plan amendment review criterias. I'll be covering number 1 and number 6. The first one is also has 11 subsections. So 1 is to describe in detail how each of the general plan guiding principles from the land use element section are achieved with the proposed general plan amendment. And the second one is that the community growth should be driven by industrial, corporate office, professional services, financial services, research and development, and other similar developments which offer the opportunity for high-paying quality jobs. Amending the site's land use category from neighborhoods to manufacturing industry provides an opportunity to attract large-scale employers and high-paying jobs to Casa Grande. Additional industrial developments and higher-paying jobs will create an economic benefit to the city and encourage future employment growth in the city. Number 6 is to describe in detail how any of the general plan goals and/or action steps are achieved by the proposed amendment. So for manufacturing industry, goal number 1 is provide and expand the manufacturing industry land use areas to accommodate a variety of industries. And the action step is to identify locations where it would be beneficial to increase the manufacturing industry areas within the city. The site is within proximity to existing industrial core and lies just north of approximately 3,500 acres that were recently amended to manufacturing and industry as well. This area has been seen to increase the industrial activity, largely due to the available infrastructure, rail service, and transportation connectivity. The UPPR along the northern property boundary can provide for a variety of future industrial uses as well. And then M5 is to encourage appropriate and responsible industrial development in appropriate locations. One of those action steps is that sites that have ability to offer utilized rail should be encouraged to attract development of the like, and that the UPPR runs adjacent to the northern property boundary. Available rail services as part of the existing infrastructure that has attracted industrial and employment development to the area. Amending the land use designation will further provide opportunities to utilize the existing rail. And then the action step for 5.4 is to encourage development and infrastructure investments that promote logical expansion of the industrial area. And again, this project is adjacent to the railroad and other lands planned for future mining operations. And then that was just done, major general plan amendment, the last round for 3,500 acres. And there, I'll just stop there. Regarding notification efforts, the applicant and staff met all city code and ARS requirements. Regarding inquiries and comments, I did receive one phone call prior to our first public meeting wanting to know about the process for the major general plan amendment. There's no opposition or anything on their end. And then on the follow-up to the letter that we received prior to last meeting as well, they had concerns regarding circulation and the transportation network in the area. The staff, applicant, and the adjacent property owner did meet this past Monday to discuss the proposal and the transportation network in the area. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation. They weren't opposed to the general plan amendment. It was just more ongoing conversation about developing their property in the future as well. So with that, staff recommends forwarding a recommendation to City Council to approve a major general plan amendment to amend the land use category from neighborhoods to manufacturing and industry for approximately 2,250 acres of land generally located at the southeast corner of Maricopa-Casa Grande Highway and Indian Valley Road. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All righty. Questions, Commissioner?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Jacqueline, did you get any feedback from the city of Maricopa on residential development in that northwest corner planned?
I did not. The area directly west of the site is actually in Pinal County, and then
I mean in the green line, right? That's Maricopa city limits, the green dashed line.
Yep, no, I did not receive any comments from.
There's some zone changes going through for residential development in that green line. So just so you're aware. So it's a mile away.
What green line are you talking about?
Oh, I'm looking at the summary report that's in the, it's not shown on this map, but the city of Maricopa is right here in this area. And there's a residential in that, like north of Teal and east of Anderson.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. We can see it's pink line instead of green.
Oh, pink. Sorry.
Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry.
So this area right here?
Yeah, that area.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that one.
So you're saying that there's a zoning changes that are taking place?
Yeah, they're going to the city of Maricopa. Portions are in the county as well.
Like what type of changes? Like,
Single-family residential. Lots.
at the next phase, when it either goes for a zone change, those applications will be forwarded to the county and Maricopa as well.
so is that area in flooding zone 2? Isn't that whole area?
Should be. Yeah, fun. Okay, any other questions for staff? No?
It could be low to moderate housing, you know.
Okay, the applicant, their representative would like to come forward and address the commission.
Somebody left a pen. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Cindy Paddock, Hildgart Wilson / Colliers Engineering and Design. I represent the applicant. My address is 2141 East Highland Boulevard in Phoenix, Arizona, 85016. Jacqueline's done a good job. We did present this at the last meeting in October when we were at the library. If you were there, you might recall. Again, this is, as Jacqueline noted, we're simply taking advantage of the industrial activity that's happening in this part of the city. Again, there's great infrastructure available with rail and the UP and Maricopa-Casa Grande Highway and 2 interstates nearby, I-8 and I-10, proposed I-11. Again, no specific plans for this project, we're just trying to take advantage of what's happening in the area and the fact that this, again, as Jacqueline noted, this has an approved PAD on it for primarily residential use, and there's a challenge for water that does not have a cause. And so, again, that's another reason to promote this change right now. So I don't have a presentation per se. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, so I will open the public portion of the meeting for this item. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion, if I can.
Thank you.
That we forward a recommendation to council for Colliers Engineering for the amended the land use category from neighborhoods to manufacturing and industry, DSA 2400107.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. No conditions, right? Just checking.
Not this time.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Eldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right, passes, thank you. Okay, next we'll have public hearing and consider forwarding recommendation to City Council for Colliers Engineering for major general plan amendment to amend the land use from rural to manufacturing industry on 80 acres at Bianco and Clayton Road. ESA 2400120. Jacqueline's show continues.
Land use category from rural to manufacturing and industry on approximately 80 acres located at the southeast corner of Clayton and Bianco. This amendment is also part of proposed land annexation that is currently being processed as well. However, because it's in the city's planning area, general plan amendment can be processed prior to annexation. Again, here are the 7 general plan review criterias. I'll be covering items in the first one, and 3 and 8. Number 3 is to support and strengthen Casa Grande's position as the industrial and commercial center of Pinal County. The city has seen tremendous interest in industrial development over the last few years based on the existing and planned industrial developments of the city's industrial core. New activities such as the Cactus Copper Mine and other recent general plan amendments for areas west of the site to manufacturing industry to support additional mining activity. The city continues to be the premier industrial center within Pinal County, and that again, this property composing this major general plan amendment request includes 80 acres within an overall 280 acre proposed rezone to I-2 and annexation that you'll be seeing at a future planning commission date. And number 8 is to link all land use decisions to known available water resources to ensure long-term viability and environmental sustainability for all new growth and development. The proposed amendment from rural to manufacturing industry has the potential to enhance future water supplies. The site is currently used for agricultural purposes under the rural category. Traditionally, industrial uses generate less water demand than agricultural uses and do not require certificates of assured water supply. As part of future entitlement approvals, developers will be required to demonstrate sufficient water capacity and accessible infrastructure necessary to serve the project. Regarding notification efforts, again, staff and the applicant met all city code and ARS requirements, and I did not receive any inquiries or comments regarding this general plan amendment. So with that, staff recommends forwarding a recommendation to City Council to approve the major general plan amendment to amend the land use category from rural to manufacturing industry on approximately 80 acres generally located at the southeast corner of Clayton and Bianco. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right then, seeing none, would the applicant or their representative please come forward and address the commission?
Hello again. Chair and Commissioners. Cindy Paddock, Colliers Engineering and Design, Hilgard Wilson, here representing the applicant on this. This is kind of a cleanup. As Jacqueline noted, there's an annexation on this property that's been filed. I think it'll come before you. I'm sorry, you won't see the annexation. The annexation is going to a December council meeting, and I think that you might see the rezone in December, January, sometime early next year. But it's been filed. This is really a cleanup. The balance of the property being annexed is already manufacturing and industry, and this property just was not. And so we're just correcting that and submitted for a major general plan amendment for this to bring it in conformance with the rest of the property being annexed. and I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
So I guess I've got a little bit of a question about.
Sure.
We're butt up against neighborhoods and rural. It actually looks like that's, the rural up there has already been subdivided also. I mean, it's a little concerning to have no transition from, I guess, to be fair, the transition will be determined, this is land use, not zoning. Any consideration from the staff about that regard?
Mr. Chair, a couple of thoughts on that. First off, on that rural to the north, it's very likely that that'll come before you in the future for a general plan amendment to manufacturing industry as well. Now, all we have is we have Bianco Road separating this manufacturing industry from the neighborhoods to the west. So Bianco Road's designed to be an arterial roadway. You can see to the west, you have a very large platted subdivision, Desert Carmel. Probably have 7,000 lots. One of the largest subdivisions in Pinal County, actually. It's a pre-Groundwater Act subdivision, so it doesn't need cause. It does have some challenges with infrastructure, with water and sewer and floodplain issues, but we are currently in conversations with a property owner there who's acquired a lot of the lots about annexing and developing it residential. So, you know, I think it's realistic that the stuff to the west of Bianco will eventually develop residentially. We're going to have to create a good buffer and a transition at that Bianco Road. And the good news is that a major arterial is a good place to create a buffer. When these industrial uses come before you for their major site plan, we're going to have to be sensitive to that and create some buffers along their west boundary, and then we'll have to do the same when we develop the residential on the west side. So there's an edge, there's a transition there that we have to be aware of. I think we can do it successfully, though, because of the road, the fact that we have the road there.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, any other questions? I kind of stepped out a little bit. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'll now open the public portion of the meeting for this item. Anybody from the public like to address this item, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
I would love that.
To forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the major general plan amendment to amend the land use category from rural to manufacturing and industry. DSA 2400120.
Great.
Second.
All right. Very good. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Eldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All righty.
Number 6.
Thank you. Okay, next, a public hearing and considering a recommendation for the city council, the request of City Casa Grande for zoning code text amendments. Oh, boy. I don't have a DSA number, do I? Oh, there's a bunch of, okay. Here it is, DSA 2400161. Jacqueline.
All right, good evening, Commission. Again, this is the fourth text amendment that we're bringing forward. You heard 3 at the last meeting in October. So the purpose of this text amendment is to allow for corner side yard setbacks to be at 15 feet within the R1, R1A, and R2 zoning districts. However, if there are garage doors or a front of a carport facing the street, these architectural elements would have a minimum setback of 20 feet in order to ensure that a 20-foot deep driveway is provided. The minimum front yard language was also modified to match the corner side. That was done a few years ago, if you recall, to allow for a 15-foot setback, but we just kind of wanted to clean up that language. And then also in the urban ranch, rural ranch, and suburban homestead zoning districts, it amends the minimum corner side setback requirements from 50 feet to 20 feet. And I just want to provide some examples. Here's an example of where the current corner side is 20 feet and could be reduced to 15 feet. And then just an example of a architectural detail side-loaded garage allowing for a 15-foot front yard setback. And then again, here is another corner side where this has the driveway on the corner side setback, which would need the 20 feet setback. And then here is an example of where it has a front porch where it could be closer, as close as 15 feet. And then again, on the side yard setback could be as close as 15 feet as well. Regarding notification efforts, a display ad was published in the dispatch and no comments have been received to date. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to City Council for request by the City of Casa Grande for the following zoning code text amendment. Said revisions establish new minimum corner side yard setback requirement and revises the front yard setback requirements. The following chapter is proposed to be amended. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All righty, commissioners, any questions for staff? Nope.
Well, just a quick one.
Yep.
So Jacqueline, what's driving the change for this one? Or what's the reason behind it?
One of the main reasons is to allow for front livable spaces to be closer to the street, kind of gets that eyes on the street, and, brings
Less front yard to maintain.
Yes. And then also it would allow, another thing in our older neighborhoods, there's smaller, or narrow lots. So with the corner yard, setback reduction, it allows for easier, or a little more, less restrictions.
This doesn't create an issue with folks parking in their driveway, right? As far as the distance for them to be able to pull in a large vehicle?
Correct, that's why the driveway will have to, if there is a garage, front-facing garage, that has to be a minimum 20 feet.
Okay. This is only for side. Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you for clarification. That's good. Any other questions for staff? And they are the applicant, so I think they've said their piece. Okay, so I will open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to forward a recommendation to council by the request from the city for the zone changes. Said revisions will establish new minimum corner yard setback requirements and revise the front yard setbacks. That is DSA number, I forgot the number, 2400161.
Second.
Very good.
One second.
Motion and a
What am I
second.
No, I just want to make sure. I think you just said forward a recommendation. Just want to clarify.
Forward a favorable recommendation,
There you
yeah, to city council, yeah. Thank you.
Guess I'm putting words in there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that it's a favorable recommendation. Was the intent? Okay.
Please be sure that we're, yeah. Particularly me, particularly tonight. Okay, where am I? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Listeners, no discussion. Please call the roll.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Eldred?
Aye.
Member Vander Hayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All righty.
Next meeting.
Planning Director. Talk to us.
Okay, let's see what we have here for reports. Snow minor site plans administratively approved. We did have a Board of Adjustment decision for a lot exception. Wow, for the minimum corner yard setbacks. Look at that. It's interesting because the changes that we've just made tonight and in the last meeting probably will eliminate these kinds of items going to the Board of Adjustment, which is exactly what our intent is here.
Yeah.
So kind of remove some of those regulatory barriers, if you will. A few city council decisions. They've approved the subdivision variance on that sidewalk on Main Street in Mercedes where we had the conflict with the drainage channel. They approved a resolution for final plat for the Roars G Diamond. And so actually I think Jacqueline told me she recorded those plats today. And they're pulling their building permits as well. So that's moving very quickly. And then council denied the zone change request from Urban Ranch to PAD for the Quick Trip. So that was a lengthy public hearing at council. And so that's all I have to report.
Hey, Paul, does Quick Trip, are they planning on coming back at something different?
They may.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
They did talk about that they, I think they're very interested in building another facility in Casa Grande, but, so I think they're evaluating their options right now.
All righty. Oh, I don't see our development reports. Did I miss it?
No, we forgot to print those for you, sorry.
All right.
So, we don't have an administrative assistant yet. Kathy's been filling in. Thank you, Kathy. We are hopefully making a job offer this week, so hopefully we'll be back to normal here, because, I've been dropping the ball a little bit. I apologize.
Well, find somebody good to keep all y'all in shape here. I don't know. Okay, okay.
Motion to
Anything else?
adjourn.
Adjourn it.
We are adjourned.
Adjourn.